you a reason why we were not going to come to school on Monday. Who remembers what that was? It was President's Day. And we talked about that President's Day is to honor two past presidents that we had a very, very long time ago. Do you remember what their names were?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln and who else?
George Washington.
And George Washington. And the reason why we celebrate both of those presidents on the same day is because what did they have that was very close together? Their birthdays, okay? And so since they were such special presidents, we picked a day where everybody in the United States celebrates their birthdays together. And so that's why we're not going to be at school on Monday. So today we're going to talk some more about George Washington. Now, I told you this morning that George Washington was the what?
The first president.
You had your listeners on. I know, I bet that's why you've got smart beats on. He was the first president. That means, was there ever a president of the United States before George Washington?
No.
No, he's the one that started the whole thing. And we've had so many presidents since then. Abraham Lincoln was number 16. And I'm not even sure that I remember what number Barack Obama is. Do you?
I don't either.
We may have to look that up because Miss Brown and Miss O don't really remember. But our president today is Barack Obama. And there's lots of differences between Barack Obama today and George Washington. Because George Washington lived a long time ago, long before I ever was alive. Back when they didn't even have cars.
Mommy.
You know how they got around?
No.
Horses, horse and buggies, horses. They had to walk, Nelson. Back in George Washington's day, do you know what happened if you lost your teeth? You know how we go to the dentist twice a year? And we try to take really good care of our teeth? Reagan, you'll love this since your daddy's a dentist. Well, George Washington lost his teeth, and they didn't have false ones to give him, so guess what they made him a set of teeth out of?
What?
Wood.
What?
Wood. He had wooden teeth. Now today, if Barack Obama lost his teeth, would he have wooden teeth?
Yes.
No. No, he would go to the dentist and they'd get him all fixed up. But they really didn't have dentists back then. Guess what else was different? Back then, to show that you were an important person, guess what men wore on their heads?
Hats.
Well, they did wear hats, but everybody kind of wore hats. Do you know what else he wore? A wig.
Oh my goodness!
A white, curly wig. And that showed that he was someone important. So if Barack Obama, who does not wear a wig, but if he lived a long time ago like George Washington, and he was the president, would he still be important?
Yes.
So what would he wear on his head?
A wig.
A wig. That's so silly though, because men don't wear wigs now, do they?
Women.
No.
They cut their hair out.
They do. A lot of men have short hair. Some let it grow long. But back then, he wore a wig, and guess what he did with the curls? He put it back in a ponytail. He did. Now, what did we say this morning? That's just some fun stuff about George Washington. But why is George Washington, why is it important that he was ever a president? What did we say a president does, Jasmine?
He makes the rules of the whole United States of America, and he makes the rules to be safe.
Kiss your brain. Okay, we talked about in here who makes the rules.
You.
I do, and I make sure that y'all are taken care of, right? Okay, in the school, who makes the rules?
Miss Penny.
And she makes sure that you're taken care of. And then we talked about in the city of Albertville, we have the mayor. And in the state of Alabama, we have the governor. Okay? But in the whole United States, someone who helps to make the rules and make sure that we are all kept safe is the president. And back when George Washington lived, there was a lot of things that people didn't agree on. There weren't very many peacemakers back then. They liked to argue with other countries. And so George Washington had a big job with making sure that everybody stayed safe and followed the rules. So being a president, would you ever want to be president?
No.
You don't. It's a big job. I don't think I'd want to be president either. All right, so Miss O is fixing to tell you a little bit more about George Washington because our president today lives in a big, big house in Washington, D.C.
It's White House.
The White House. Why do you think
Washington.
well, wait a minute. Why do you think they call where the president lives now the White House?
Because it has a big lot.
Well, okay, not the Light House, but the White House. Jasmine?
Because they painted it white and now they call it the White House.
It's got a sparkle word in it. It describes the house, doesn't it? That whole big house is white. But George Washington didn't live in the White House that the presidents do now. And so Miss O is going to tell you a little bit about where George Washington lived with his wife, Martha. Martha Washington. Okay? And it's called Mount Vernon. So do you have your listening to your song?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to learn a little bit about where he lived.
So we're going to look at this book. Who's that on the front?
Washington.
That is George Washington. And we're going to turn and we're going to look. And we're going to see some pictures of where he lived. Mount Vernon. Say Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon.
That's the name of the place where George Washington lived. And what does our president today live?
The
In the
White
White House. So George Washington was the only president that never lived in the White House. We're going to read a little bit about his life at Mount Vernon. Can you see it?
Whoa.
Right there? That's part of Mount Vernon. George Washington, when he used to fight war, he was not only a president, but he was also the general. The general is like the captain. Kind of like Miss Penny is our captain. The general leads all of his troops, all of the soldiers to war. So he was also a captain who led all of the troops to war. So when the war was over with, he came back home, and he came back to his home place, Mount Vernon. And after the war was bad. They used guns, and they fought, and his home place got destroyed. They had fought, and they burned it. They used fire. It was crazy. So he had to spend a lot of time rebuilding Mount Vernon so he could live in it with his wife, Martha. What does that look like right there?
Bad.
It does look like a bed. When George Washington died, he actually got buried at Mount Vernon. He actually is buried there. You know when we have someone that passes away, they get buried in a cemetery? Well, when he passed away, he got buried at Mount Vernon where he lived. So you can go there now and you can see his grave and you can see where George Washington lived. So something really, really cool that we're going to do, and I'm going to use the smartboard to show you. So we're going to take a tour of George Washington's house, Mount Vernon. We're going to get to see all of the rooms, all of the walls, everything that's in it. I'll turn this thing on.
So we're going to get to go on a trip without actually even having to go anywhere. How cool is that?
Yes.
I know. We can just pretend like we're going to fly on an airplane right now, and land, and just get to see what you would see if you really were there.
Miss Fun, do I have to turn off the light?
Can we turn off a couple? You think we can try it and see?
Yeah.
Alright, yes, try. Let's see if we can do this. It is a little hard to see in this room if the lights are still on.
What should I see?
We might have to turn one set of lights on.
Okay. Let's see, guys. You're just going to have to use your super eyes, okay?
All right, you see that?
Yes.
That was George Washington's house.
There's one set on like
That
it's
was
not.
Mount Vernon.
No, I can see now. I just couldn't
And
see
we're going to
anything.
take a tour of Mount Vernon. I think this. Here it is.
That is the
Hey,
White House.
do you see all the iPads on the table? Okay, on the iPads, I have pulled up Mount Vernon, where George Washington lived. So I'm going to show you what you're going to do on your iPad, okay? What is that?
Arrows.
There are arrows. So what do you think would happen if we touched one? Let's find out. Maybe.
Where?
Yeah.
I think we have to push that.
What's happening?
It's looking at his house.
We're going to get to go inside his house. So remember Miss Brown said that we were going to pretend like we're going to get on an airplane. So everybody close your eyes. Okay? Pretend like you're on an airplane. What do you see out the window of the airplane?
George Washington's house.
You see his house. Are we flying over his house?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to land in his yard. And we're going to get off the airplane. All right, open your eyes. Now we're in George Washington's house. So we get to explore everything in his house, and we get to be right here in the classroom and do it. So if we pressed an arrow here, what do you think would happen?
We go up the stairs. Finally. I would say his room.
Let's see what's in there. This is called the yellow room. You can read that word because it's a sparkle word. Look at that.
I like his bed.
It's pretty cool, right? Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go to a seat. Hold on. I'm going to let you guys go to a seat and find an iPad. Press the home button and stop. And you get to explore Mount Vernon. It's pulled up for you already. You don't have to do anything else. You can press the arrows. You can go anywhere you want to go.
You went straight to the yellow room, didn't you? Or is that the other room?
I like his whole
Isn't that pretty? Well, which one? You want to go in the yellow room or the blue room?
Miss Brown, what? Miss Brown, I'm scared. Miss Brown, I want the yellow. I want the.
What room is
One,
it?
2, 3, eyes on me. Everybody look over here. What if we didn't press an arrow and we pressed one of those that looked like a circle? What would happen?
I see it. Don't know.
If you press one that looks like a circle instead of an arrow, it'll tell you about the object that the circle is on. So if you press a circle and you need some help reading it to read about what it is, raise your hand and we'll let you know.
I'm watching the video. Wow, that's. I'm watching the video.
That says last lesson.
There's some under it. No. There's some under that cover. It's Pam. There's some under that cover. It's Terry. It looks like there's some under that.
Click it.
This 17 days before George Washington's death and the night before he wanted to give me the blessing.
Whoa, come on.